In relationships, you get this a lot, and it's a death blow. You and I need to talk today. Oh my gosh! Don't say that. You should never say that.
The ability to discipline your children, but in order to effectively discipline, they must effectively know you love them. Otherwise, they just see you as an abuser. Questions do the most powerful thing in the history of mankind.
It's this kid going, it's hard, help. And what he's getting back from me because I didn't seek first to understand was, why aren't you just
in his head, he's also protecting himself because
so you're going to tell me the truth. We're going to handle it together. There's consequences because there's natural consequences. You're already in trouble for it.
Yep.
I was talking to a particular person, and there was somebody that works there that they were having conflict with. The person was like, every time I talk with this person, doesn't matter what I say, they like get defensive. When you go to talk to that person, where are you coming from? And they're like, what? I'm like, you know, they're going to get defensive. Now, the minute, and this is the cool part, is the minute you feel like maybe they shut down, go back to it's phenomenal.
Yeah. Welcome to Let's Go Podcast. Me and Olivia, we haven't been able to get together for the last week. Olivia has a new hobby.
Yes.
And she apparently likes it more than she likes me. Very sad.
I do enjoy it.
But she's making custom dog treats and selling them at the local markets.
Yeah.
Right?
We did the junior league host the spring market.
Okay.
And it's 3 days. So we were there Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And that's only the second market I've done. And it was fun. It was interesting.
Did you make any money? Did you make money or did you just gross some money?
Yeah, no, actually, so I did. It actually was a profit. Now, would I say it was a large profit? You can't live on it. And I did actually, I paid for the,
You're gonna get you
covered my
a new mixer?
booth rent, and I covered my, the expenses and things like that. But yeah.
So would you call it a labor of love at this moment?
Oh, 100%.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right, cool.
yeah. No, so I was thinking about it the other day. So one of the things as I get older, I'm really embracing the fact that, and we've talked about it before, I have ADHD, the whole bit. And I'm embracing the fact that I like to do different things during different hyper focuses, right? So a few years ago, right, we know because I talk about it all the time, but I really got into running, and for 3 years, that was what I was doing, right?
She was a crack-headed runner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you saw me, I was running somewhere around town, I was laughing because I just had to get a new stove for my place, and the last stove I bought was in 2020, and I literally ran from my house in West Monroe to Monroe to pick out the stove, paid for it, and said, we'll be by tomorrow to pick it up with the truck, and ran home, right? So that has now become, dog treats.
Yeah.
So I ran into somebody the other day, and they're like, is this you or something? And I was like, yeah. I said, it's, in the past, I probably would have said this isn't making a bunch of money, or this is not blah, blah, so I can't do it. It's fun. I enjoy it. I get to do it for the dogs and things like that. So I'm just completely embracing it for however long it lasts. And I get to be a little bit creative. And the funny thing is for people that know me, I can cook.
Yeah.
I don't do it very often, and so it's funny that.
But you cook for your dogs professionally now.
Yeah. And now I literally took a cookie class so that I could learn how to decorate cookies better.
For dog treats.
Yes. Yeah.
Would some rich billionaire out there please come hire Olivia to run a 501c for you? She'll do a great job. She'll love on the doggies. If you've ever been that person, if I ever get rich, I'm gonna have a dog farm. Olivia will run it for you.
Oh yeah, I would love that.
Yeah.
They're even. I made one of the best sellers was brownies.
Yeah.
For dogs, and they're super cute. Anyways, off topic. Yeah. So I'm enjoying it, and So last Saturday, that's where I was for that. I'll probably do one a month or something, and there's some places that I'm going to, I've talked to a few people about, setting up and putting some cookies in their places and stuff, but our little dog treats.
Yeah.
The dogs enjoy them. They're all, whole food, real human food.
Won't kill your babies.
No. It's all good stuff, and it's fun, and you get to give them little treats. And I get to be a little bit artistic because, again, it's funny how if you would have asked me, oh, are you artistic? I'm like, no. But now I'm enjoying decorating cookies, and I even started... I think the older I get, I'm turning into an old lady. 2 months ago, I was watching something about dogs, and I was like, I'm going to sew them that. I've never sewed in my life. So I sent out a message to people I knew. I'm like, who has a sewing machine? When my cousin had a sewing machine, I was like, can I borrow it? So now I know how to sew dog bandanas that go over their collars.
This is getting ridiculous, guys. This is getting ridiculous. All right.
Yeah, so embracing the ADHD hyperfixation.
There you go. All right. So our topic today is going to be around powerful questions and what those can do for you.
That's right.
Questions are, I'll tell you, let me rephrase that. Olivia, who controls the conversation? The person that talks the most or the person who asks the most questions?
It's asking the questions.
Yeah, why is
all
that?
the time. Think about it. When you're in an argument or you're in a highly intense situation, when do you feel the most backed into a corner? It's when you're defending yourself. Mm-hmm. When you're doing a lot of explaining, essentially what's happening is you're defending yourself. Now, there's a time and a place to explain. There's a time and a place to have a conversation and say things. And yet, so often we tend to like this. Sorry, I looked at this because this made me. We have a tendency to rush in to fix things up with good advice. Mm-hmm. But we often fail to take the time to diagnose, to really deeply understand the problem first. Mm-hmm. So that's why so many times conversations are, well, that's not what I meant. Yeah. You didn't hear me right. Because we didn't understand what they were going through to be able to help them come up with a solution.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm just going to relate this to what I do professionally in real estate. When we go into an expired or a withdrawn appointment, and that for you guys, that means that they had their house on the market and they either weren't happy with the realtor, so they withdrew the contract, or their contract had expired and so it went off market. You know, we'll call them and set appointments. And it's a very valuable lead source for us because they've already raised their hand and said, hey, I'm willing to pay an agent. I want to sell my house and I appreciate services, mm-hmm. right? And so it's a hot lead source. And we go in, and Olivia, the first thing that we say when we walk in is not, hire me, I'm number one. Yeah. Hire me, I'm better than your other agent. We ask a series of questions. You probably already know these questions, but the first one is, why do you think your house didn't sell? Yeah. And then we shut up. And what we're doing is I'm literally in the question, hey, why don't you think your house sold? Mm-hmm. Is a command and a statement, and it is, you're about to tell me how to interview for you. Yeah. Inside of that question, they are giving me all the power of the conversation.
They are.
And because they're going to go, well, my agent didn't do this. And then I write that down. They didn't market my property ready. All right. We are going to make sure we go over the marketing portion of our presentation. Mm-hmm. They didn't communicate. Boom. Communication guarantee or fire me. All right. We don't feel like they priced our house right. Personal analysis. Mm-hmm. Right. Yes. And then when I go into my listing presentation, I'm like, thank you so much for sharing that with me. Mm-hmm. I would like to highlight, I can go through this whole presentation for you, and I'm happy to do so. Or would you like me to just address your problems? Mm-hmm. And let me show you how I'm going to fix it for you. And through asking one powerful question, they have completely taught me how to interview for them.
Well, it goes right back to that I cannot diagnose without understanding. Yeah. So that question, I need to understand from your perspective, why am I here? Mm-hmm. What caused you to agree to meet with me? And what are the pain points? Because again, I don't know how many of you, we've all done this at some point. We've been in a conversation with somebody and maybe we complained or we said something and that person immediately goes into giving us advice. Mm-hmm. And even if it's the right advice, it's not what I'm concerned about, or it's not, then I end up, then the person ends up feeling defensive and now I'm explaining to you why that doesn't work, mm-hmm. et cetera. And so 100%, you gotta ask the question to find out what the actual problem is. You've got to listen to understand, and then you can help potentially create a solution if that is what it's there for. And so 100%, it's asking that question. And so often we don't. We just jump in and we diagnose. My favorite, and this is, y'all have heard me talk about this before, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
It's Olivia's favorite book.
It is.
It's like her anthem.
Yes. And I'm actually, ZB Electric, we're hosting a monthly class starting this Tuesday on that particular book. We're going to go through the whole book, and utilizing the workbook and things. But that is it's such an important piece to really understand other people and where they're coming from. And that made me lose my train of thought.
What were you talking about, ZB Electric?
No, yeah, when I said that, but where I was going with somewhere with asking the question to diagnose. Oh, sorry. In that book, one of the things that the great example of it is if you went to an eye doctor and you let's say I'm the eye doctor, and you said you can't see. I said, oh, no big deal. Here, you can use my glasses. And then you put those glasses on, and you're like, because I'm blind as a bat. Like, my glasses are, thick. I'm negative 6.75.
Got them Coke bottle glasses.
I do, yes. I'm like, great, thankfully for contacts. and so you would say, like, you're going to look through those, and you're going to say something like, it's worse. I still can't see. It's all blurry. Well, they work for me. Why don't they work for you? Just try harder. They're fine.
And that's a live example of explaining over asking.
Yeah.
And inside of, and I'm for whatever reason, my natural words that want to come out is like in the middle of a conflict, but this doesn't just apply to a conflict. It can apply to a conflict. It can apply to leading someone. It can apply to exiting, recruiting. And it is these words before talking. And we said it before we got on camera, and it's 2 sentences. It's actually on my AirPods. I have 2 sets of AirPods because I always have to have them on me. And one of them says, seek first to understand. And then the second pair says, and then to be understood.
That's right.
And it's always, instead of explaining the conflict, right, we ask questions so that we understand. And then once you are fully... And then once you have a full 360 grasp of that situation, whether good or bad, now you understand through powerful questions how to respond to that in an educated manner to where you can achieve your ultimate goal. And whether that is coming together, falling apart, moving the ball forward, or pivoting your business and going, hey, I now understand that we're not doing the right things, or hey, I understand that we need to double down on these activities. So asking questions is just the ultimate power move. I had a conflict with someone who I worked with, and I just said, hey, I'd like for you to come over to the house. I'm scheduling out my entire afternoon for you. So as long as it takes is as long as we will sit. And those were the words that I had on my whiteboard when they walked into the room. And I said, seek first to understand and then to be understood. And I defined it for them. I said, we are going to write down every single conflict, every single resentment, every ounce of toxicity in our relationship. And I am just going to shut the fuck up. And I want you, as petty as you can make it, I want to get as granular from Harrison, you're an asshole, to Harrison, I don't like your social media content, to I don't like the way you smell. I don't care. Whatever it is, give me your conflicts. And I sat there and I shut up and I just wrote for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And so every time they said something, and I just let them talk through that thought. I wrote the entire thing down. I said, is that what you said? Yep. Perfect. Circled it. Next one. What's your next complaint about me or the company or about what we're doing? Right. Wrote it down, circled it. Is that what you said? Yep, perfect. I'm getting buy-in, right? I'm asking these questions so that I can completely understand.
That's right.
And then once you have a full, broad view of what's going on, I just started laughing in my head from that YouTube comment. Because you guys have mastered talking and not saying anything at all. I'm like, I wonder if this is one of those moments. No. So once you have a full broad scale view of 30,000 foot view of what those problems are, you can begin handling the objections one by one to where you can make this a win or an exit or whatever the outcome is that you're looking for out of these conversations.
Because part of it is not being attached to the outcome. When we're attached to the outcome, what happens
That was something else that I said. I said, I want you to know that I'm not married to an outcome in here.
Yeah.
I love you. I want you to stay. But if we discover through these questions and this process that we're about to go through together that we're not a fit, then I am going to give you the biggest fucking hug I can, tell you I love you, and I'll support you on the way out.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Because it really is. And we tend to do this, and I like what you said about it works in every aspect. We tend to do this with kids especially. Meaning, so like, let's say that a kid says something, and I say a kid, I mean a teenager, it could be a kid, a teenager, maybe a young adult, and they might say something like, I hate school, or, that's just we'll use that one, we'll run with that one. I hate school, or.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about that.
Well, and that's so, because what do we, if we're not careful.
This is Chuck's #1 favorite phrase. Tell me a little bit about that.
That's because if we're, and what I wanted to, and I'm glad you used that one, because I wanted to point out sometimes questions are very important. Don't go to them too fast or too you have to get permission to ask a question, right? So, and what I mean, and so let's say a kid says, school sucks. We tend to look at it from our perspective, and let's say that you're spending a crap ton of money sending this kid to a private school, and you're like, what do you mean school sucks? Back in my day, we had to da-da-da, and I didn't have good clothes.
I had to walk on one leg with an arm tied behind my back up a mountain.
Yeah. And so we have
in the cold.
In the cold, yeah.
I'm thinking about the Asian reels where he talks about his son. Oh, you've never seen it? It's like a rich Asian family. And he always talks about how good his son has it and how bad he had it.
Yeah.
And so he just exacerbates everything.
Gotcha.
Like, I had to go to school. I'm not going to even try an Asian accent for the sake of not getting canceled today. But I had to travel with on one leg with one arm tied behind my back, carrying my brothers and sisters up a mountain in the snow.
Yes.
And you have a B in algebra.
Yes. We tend to put we put all of our what we want to say is, I'm sharing my advice with you.
Yeah.
Only nobody cares what you know until they know you care. So when I just start word vomiting all over you to tell you why you should enjoy school and blah, 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 that person is now completely shut down. We are no longer communicating. I'm talking. I'm lecturing. So we have to make sure that we're actually having a conversation. And a conversation was with two people, both of them learning from one another. And so, the kid says, school sucks. Instead of, you might say something like, well, gosh, tell me about that.
Yeah.
Because it is the how you use your words and your tonality as well. It could, and it could even be, oh, it sounds like you had a hard day.
Yeah.
Because
that's empathy.
It's empathy. And so the first place you start is empathy. Let them know, because you heard them.
Yeah. You're giving them permission to speak.
100% and to be vulnerable with you. So then you say, oh, wow, it sounds like you had a hard day. And they say, yeah, Bob was mean to me, blah, blah, blah. Oh, gosh. That must have hurt. Yeah. Now you're giving them permission. So I haven't really asked a question yet, but I'm over there with them.
Yeah.
And then as appropriate.
Understand that it's not actually school, right? Yes. Somebody was mean to them, and they hated that somebody was mean to them. And now school was just where they were at. That's right. And that negative emotion is wrapped around school. Right? And so now hey, maybe I need to go talk to teachers about a bullying problem rather than an education problem.
That's right. Well, and so in that moment, if I wouldn't have taken the time to be over there with them, and I would have just told them all about my experience, or even if they did, let's say that they said, told them all about my experience in school, blah, 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 they're like, that has nothing to do with why are you telling me that? That's not about that's not my problem. Yeah. And then we wonder why we have a wall, or we can't talk to somebody. It's because we're probably talking about two different things. So making sure that you're over there with them. And again, I know today's conversation, we're talking about powerful questions. And yet there's a time and a place to ask questions. If you notice when in that, that example of somebody saying school sucked today, I didn't immediately go, wow, what sucked about it? We haven't maybe created that opening yet.
Right.
And so that's a lot of times I'll hear parents say, I can't get my kids to tell me anything. Now, part of it is because kids don't tell their parents everything.
Well, right.
Sometimes it is how the parents ask, because we just tend to pepper them with questions, right?
Well, and if you have adverse reactions to your kids, because again, we say seek first to understand and then to be understood in this thought process. And if, Olivia, if you're my mother, and every time I come and tell you something that I know that maybe I shouldn't have done, or maybe I know you may not agree with, and every time I tell you something, I'm honest with you, you ram it down my throat.
What do you mean? Why'd you do that?
Yeah, well.
Golly, Harrison.
Yeah, and so what you are effectively doing by
shutting them down.
Instead of seeking first to understand, hey, you got in a fight at school today. We need to talk about that.
Yeah, tell me about that. What happened? How do you...
Yeah. So, and instead of jumping to the conclusion and explaining or yelling or telling or commanding, we ask questions to understand a thought process. Now, the question doesn't solve the punishment. There's still a spanking or something that goes along. Well, I mean, in my family, it was a hockey stick upside my head.
Yeah. But, I think part of that, though...
Not literally in my head, guys.
I don't know. You do have that scar. We're getting to the real story now. Yeah. Well, and I think, too, Yeah, because one has nothing to do. There's consequences to everything.
Yeah.
A lot of times people talk about punishment. I'm more a fan of like natural consequences. That doesn't say that people don't. There are consequences. So the consequence might be you lost that privilege or you did. So I agree with you there. And yet, 100%, like, because we'll tell kids, talk to me, and then they talk to us, and then we say, well, blah, blah, blah. It's like my favorite. I've seen this several times where somebody will say, like, especially with little kids, so often, and there's a book, and I can't think of the name of it right now, but it's really good. It talks about the parent-child dynamic. But if we're not careful, it's not just parent-child. It's if I ask a question a certain way, I've put myself as parent and your child, meaning like less than, or I kind of set somebody up to lie to me. So for instance, you'll have like, let's say that you hear a lamp getting broke in the living room and you were in the kitchen and you walk in and the little kid's sitting by the lamp and you're like, did you break that lamp? We just put that kid in a spot that they're going to say no.
Yeah.
I know they did. They know they did. Now what? You can't lie. Why would you tell me a lie? Well, you legit, inadvertently, but you legit put them in a spot where they're going to lie.
Yeah.
So instead of walking in there with that, is walking in there going, did you do it? Well, they did. You could walk in there and go, what happened? Did you trip? Did you fall? Were you goofing around? You got to give them an opening to get to where they feel comfortable telling you the truth. So sometimes they would have told you, but you legit, because think about it. It's a natural. I'm 43 years old. And if you walk up to me and I did something wrong or something I was embarrassed about, if I'm not real careful,
your knee-jerk reaction may be like, I didn't do it. I want to be out of here. Bye.
Yeah. And then you go, okay, I really did do it, right?
Yeah.
So don't put people in that position. And so that's ultimately so sometimes we actually set ourselves up to get a reaction we don't want because we aren't paying attention to what we brought to the conversation. Mm-hmm. When I walk into a room and why'd you do that? And why is one of those, be really careful. I'm actually a big believer in the only time you use why is when you're attempting to understand somebody's emotions.
Yeah.
Otherwise, get why. Do not ask people why, because why is an accusation. Why did you do that? And it doesn't matter your tonality. If somebody's embarrassed or they're dealing with something, if I ask why, most likely people are going to get defensive.
Yeah.
And so instead, what caused that to happen?
One that your brother taught me to say is, for what purpose?
What purpose?
And I don't know why, but every time he said that to me, like immediately I had to go into like the deepest root of the causation.
Yes.
Like it was,
I
don't know if that was like psychologically taught to him, like if that's an NLP trick or something, but he would say that to me and he'd say it again and again and again to the point where I'm like at the deepest cause and I'm sitting here thinking about childhood trauma. I'm like, thanks, Chuck, we're crying. Yeah. Appreciate that.
But when it was the seeking to understand, right? Yeah. Because again, it goes to, so I like this example with, so with my nephew, I saw Ethan this weekend. He's awesome. He's 21 now. He just turned 21 this month.
Crazy.
Yes. And so when he lived with me, so I was, my nephew's legal guardian for a few years. And, when he was living with me, I remember we were doing, public school didn't work out so well for us. Private school didn't work out so well for us. So we were doing some homeschooling.
Yeah.
And, at first, it was going really well. We were utilizing these things called PACEs, and so he would do his work, and, it was going really well. And then he started pushing back, and he would say, school takes too long. Now, this is the interesting thing. I'll tell one on myself. I did not come from a place in that moment of seeking to understand, because I'm thinking, school takes too long? Are you serious? Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure I said something similar like this to him. School is 8 hours. It takes you 2 hours to get through all of your classes. What do you mean it takes too long? Mm-hmm. Right? But I didn't ask him more questions. I just reacted because I was busy this and I was busy this. And so it was just a big fight. Well, I had to order some more PACEs and they weren't coming in. And one day I happened to be walking by my house, and my house is on Pierce. And I happened to just glance over, and there was a cardboard box under my house. I was like, that's weird. So I pull it out, those paces that I had ordered, he had put them under the house when they got delivered. And so my first reaction,
about to go kick this dude's ass.
My whole head got red. I'm like mad. And then I went, wait a minute. Like, that's a pretty extreme reaction. Let me, instead of going in there and just like dog cussing him, not that I would dog cuss him, but I mean, it's just like, oh, I'll let him have it. So let me think about this. So, made sure I calmed down first. And step one, calm down. Yes.
Yeah.
And so then I went to him and I said, hey, you know what? You've been telling me that school's taking too long. I haven't really asked you anything about that. Tell me, like, what's going on? Anyways, he starts explaining. He was using the word school takes too long. What he meant, he just didn't have at 13, 14, he didn't have the words to say. It was too hard and he needed help. So can you imagine how this kid felt? For weeks, he had been telling me what he thought he was telling me was, it's hard, help.
But he's saying it's too long.
And that's right. And so what he's getting, but really, it's this kid going, it's hard, help. And what he's getting back from me, because I didn't seek first to understand, was, you're a problem. Like, that, why aren't you just do it, right? Like, and again, neither one of us.
In his head, he's also protecting himself because those are the reactions he's used to from adults, because adults do not take the time to understand him.
That's right.
If you don't know this young man, he's just kind of had a troubled life and a little behind on education at that point in his life. Olivia took in and was his guardian for a few years and was fighting through these issues with him. There was a lot there, like, to unpack. Like, Olivia woke up without a vehicle one day.
Yeah, we'd have a whole show.
And
I got to ride the back of a cop car and go pick him up.
Yeah, so, like, but he had built up a wall because no one had asked questions.
That's right.
Questions do the most powerful thing
they do the
in the
heavy
history
lifting.
of mankind. It, again, when I said earlier, like, it solves conflicts, it can put people together, it can tear them apart. You can literally change someone's mind by asking effective questions. And if you think that that's not true, then tell me why we go to therapists.
That's right.
What do therapists actually do?
Their job is to ask you questions to help you look at something differently.
Yeah. They're the perfect example of the person who controls the conversation asks the questions, and the person who dominates the conversation is actually the one getting smoked.
That's right.
And so the person who talks the most is typically the one that is not directing the question. They're getting dopamine hits by talking.
That's when so often, especially so often when you leave a conversation, if you felt, oh my God, we had such a great conversation.
You were probably the person who talked too much.
Yeah. And it could have been too much. It could have been the right amount.
Does that mean that you and I all feel good all the time?
That's right. But yet keep in mind, so like part of it is you want the other person to leave with that feeling. So are you making sure that you're giving them ample opportunity to talk? And again, and it's not the peppering with questions either, because you got it. Like, that's the piece of making sure that you're over there with them first, because like, I'll tell one on us. My mom, she lives with me now, and she's 75. She gets around fine, but she cancer, the whole bit, and she got really, really sick earlier or last year, and so I moved her in with me. I'd moved her next door first, and now she's living with me, and I can't always put my finger on it, but recently I did. Like, she likes to ask questions, but with no connotation. So, and my mom is the sweetest in the world. But I couldn't figure out, like, what was aggravating me about it, because, like, I'll walk in the room and she'll say, how did your day go? Or I'll walk into, how was your meeting? And I'll walk into somewhere and she'll say, and on one hand, I'm going, well, that's nice. Like, she's engaged. She's asking about me. But it's just a random, out of the blue question. So my brain's over here. I'm thinking about X, Y, Z. And so if I'm not, one of the reasons that I realized why I feel that way is because it's the peppering with questions.
Right.
And so we have to be careful about that. So questions are powerful when used appropriately.
Yeah.
So
it's like a loaded gun. You don't point a loaded gun everywhere and anywhere, right?
That's right.
It's strategic, and you pull the trigger strategically. And you mentioned earlier about. You didn't say these words exactly, but it brought me back to a podcast that we talked about, where we talked about care and candor, the ability to discipline your children. But in order to effectively discipline, you must they must effectively know you love them. And so you cannot give one without the other. Otherwise, they just see you as an abuser.
That's right. That's right.
And that is the same methodology to asking questions. It is a loaded gun. If someone respects you, they'll open up and they'll allow those questions to be powerful. If someone doesn't respect you and you don't have any sort of an empathy relationship with them, then you're probably not going to get the best version of what that tool is used for.
100%. And going back to that why question, because even, in that example of Ethan, right, whenever I said to him, again, when I was doing it incorrectly, and forget incorrectly or correctly, effectively or not effectively.
Yeah, that's fair.
When I was ineffective, I would say things like,
what are you doing?
Well, right. So
Yeah.
it was, but so you have to make certain that it's not the peppering with questions. Listen to what they're saying. And so for years we used to have this, and it's not any better, but you would call in, let's say you call, it just aggravates the fire to me. You'll call into your Verizon Wireless or your whoever. And
I'd prefer never to have to do that.
oh gosh. and so you tell them something. So what you said was, and I'm like, oh, shoot me now. So you don't have to say it like that, but you do want to check in with somebody.
Yeah.
So,
So if I'm hearing you correctly.
yeah,
Paraphrase.
but just one time, right? And so it really it's none of us have mastered this, and you really have to pay attention to what you're saying, why you're saying it, and how you're landing with the other person. And so and there are some books that I would recommend for anybody that's watching that is interested in being a better communicator and questions being a part of it. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Ooh, couldn't imagine she was going to say that.
7 Habits of Highly Effective People. The question behind the question is really good. You mentioned one earlier. While you're thinking.
My phone's over there.
Okay. Extraordinary Questions is another great one. But if you do a quick Google search, there are all these books about communication.
I think it's called The 7 Powers of Questions.
7 Powers of Questions that you
it was the one that I was reading to this morning before we got on here.
Yeah, because it's again, like, I think going back to that effective or ineffective is making sure, like, if you're having a conversation with a significant other, spouse, a family member, a business associate, any of those people, if you're not getting the results that you would like to have, and sometimes the result you'd like to have is just a better relationship or a better understanding or to be able to move XYZ forward. It's like, am I understanding that person? Why am I getting that response? So like, for instance, we were, the company that I coach with, we were talking, I was talking to a particular person, and there was somebody that works there that they were having conflict with. And the person was like, every time I talk with this person, it doesn't matter what I say, they like get defensive. And then that person went on to say, like, they're defensive and they do this and they push it and I don't know. And I said, so when you go to talk to that person, where are you coming from? And they're like, what? I'm like, you know they're going to get defensive.
Right.
What are you bringing into the conversation? And
what's your intent with this conversation?
Well, and again, inadvertently, because you already know how they're going to say, you're already like, so you didn't realize that you brought like something for them to defend. And what we were talking, and we discussed that in that particular industry, where the person that came from, it's a lot of hollering and yelling and you're wrong and all this. I said, so they haven't been in your organization long enough to, like, they're still waiting for the other shoe to drop,
right,
for you to be an ass, right?
Yeah.
And so they're defending themselves. And then now you feel like that. Now you are bringing this. And so I said, so what I want you to do is, we found the name of somebody in the company that she, like, I'm like, if they said this, like, when they ask you to do things, is there any kind, how do you feel?
Yeah.
And she was like, they could ask me to fall off the moon. Like, it's great. That's how I want you to, I want you to imagine when you're talking to that person, I want you to put that other person that you really, really like, I want you to put their face on.
Yeah.
Pretend they're asking. A week later, check in. How'd it go? Oh my God. So amazing. We got along, had a great week. It's game changer, and it's still been a game changer a couple months after that conversation.
Yeah.
And it was what was being brought to the conversation. And so often we want to put, it's them. They didn't. They're bad communicators. They're blah, blah, blah. I can't change that. But when I change this, a lot of times that changes.
Absolutely. How we show up in the conversation 100% affects the outcome of that conversation. Mm-hmm. Olivia, if I come to you and we haven't spoken a week and there is no care for me to give candor, and I come at you and I'm being less than pleasant, right? Mm-hmm. Immediate response is wall up, fuck this guy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
This person is attacking me. Now I'm in fight or flight. We're going to pick which one we go.
That's right.
And so going to somebody and leading with empathy, setting it up with powerful questions and going, hey, here's my intention. I am here to seek first to understand.
That's right.
And then I would like to be understood if that's okay with you afterwards. So let's get it out here.
That's right. Well, and it's always amazing too. Like
also notice the tone drop.
Yeah.
Go a little bit slower.
All of those things matter.
That is a part of effective communication.
That's so in relationships, you get this a lot, and it's a death blow.
I'm curious because I was going to say something about relationships inside this.
Yeah.
But I'm curious. So go.
You and I need to talk today.
Oh
my gosh. Like now every bad, negative.
Like, do you say it like that exactly? Like, you and I need to talk today.
It's don't say that. At least you never say that.
Like, hey, babe, can we sit down and talk later? Like
that's
okay. Like, because there's an upswing, right?
Yeah.
It makes me feel more comfortable. But
hey, there's something exciting I'd like to share with you. Can we make sure that we get together today? Now, if it's not exciting, don't say it and then surprise them with it. But so
honey potted, you bitch.
That's right. But so often it's not even necessary. You know you're going to be with that person later today or whatever. So you just have the conversation, right?
Yeah.
Now, I do believe in setting things up in an appropriate place. So let's say that person comes home, and I think it's just like with everything else. They come home and you do your, hey, how are you, da da da, or whatever, and then then you broach it, right? So like, but there is fierce conversation. That's another one. So fierce conversation, they do a great setup to
isn't that the one by the author
Susan
that
Scott?
because she decided to do it herself. She needs to hire a voice actor.
Oh, well, so what's interesting? Yes,
her voice was squeaky.
Yeah. Well, so interesting. Like I tried to read her book several times and I couldn't get through it, and I'm a voracious reader. And then I listened to it and I was like, oh, okay. And then now I've read it and I underline it and all this. So, but fierce conversation and fierce leadership are both really good. But in there, they talk about like if you're going through something hard with somebody, maybe you need to set a boundary. And this is at work, at home, whatever. She gives a great way to set that conversation up. And so, but one of the powerful things she does is she says you have 60 seconds. So you have to prepare what you're going to say before you get there. Uh-huh. Because what happens is so often, let's say that you and I are having an issue. If I haven't prepared it, and because I do like you and I want to keep the relationship, and this is business relationship, personal, friendship, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We'll kind of get nervous. And then I'll talk to you and 8 minutes later, I'm still talking, but I maybe haven't made a point, or I've now just everything and anything that's ever been wrong, right? And now we're having a whole different type of conversation. So you have 60 seconds to say everything that you need to say for them, and then you're going to give them the floor. So like if there's a problem, I would say, Harrison, there's been a couple things that's been going on, and I'm going to say what's going on, and I'm going to have written it down or practiced it. So instead of having to give you 50 examples, I can go the overview of when we talk about certain things, your tonality has kind of made me feel bad, and I don't like that. And so what I'd like to do today is kind of figure out how we get on the same page.
Yeah.
And because if we don't, and this is the thing, it's not like a threat, like because if we don't, I'm leaving. Because if if we don't, then this isn't going to work anymore. And I'm really committed, like I think you are, to this continuing to work. So, and so this is where I'm coming from. I'd love to, where can we go from here? And then now from there, I'm not prepping the conversation. We don't want to over prepare because I do want to listen to what you're saying.
Right.
But if I give you a 60-second thing of what's going on and make sure that I do it in a way that I'm not saying like, you suck and you da-da, we're going to be able to have a conversation. And from there, I'm going to be able to ask questions and understand your perspective. You're going to understand mine. And it opens up a whole new place.
Yeah.
And yet so often we don't prepare that. And it just comes in where we're just vomiting on the person. And then we wonder why they get defensive and it goes off the rail.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Questions are such an amazing thing. They can change the outcome of your marriage. Look, powerful questions and conversations can change your sex life. If you're struggling there with your spouse or with your partner, like asking questions on things, like we're not going to go into that here, right? But it can change things. It can change your parenting style. If instead of blowing up at your kids, there's I'm not going to name any families or any people, obviously, but I notice behaviors in kids, and then I see how their parents speak to them. And it's, shut the F up or I'm going to beat your ass. And I'm like, they're 11. Like, A, I disagree with that. But B, like, what are we teaching him? And now we wonder why he hides things from you.
That's right. That's right.
Because if you spoke to me like that, I would hide stuff from you too.
Yeah. Well, because well, that's the thing is so often we don't want kids to lie to us. But when they bring... We don't want anybody to lie to us, but when they bring things to us or they tell us or they're vulnerable, then we fuss at them.
Yeah.
And then we go, well, tell me that you can always you can always come to me,
a baseball
Harrison.
bat that I can hit you in the face with.
Yeah.
Is what you're really saying to them when you treat them like that.
That's right.
Instead of going, hey, no, this is just a coaching moment here.
That's right.
We're going to have a conversation about how this specifically is never going to happen again. Well, Clayton and I got to do that for a few hours the other night.
Well, and I also and think about even like, look, guys, employees.
Yeah.
We make employees lie to us because
tell us about
when can you call out of work when you're sick? Everybody in here that's watching this at some point, if you worked for somebody else, you lied about being sick because you didn't want to go in that day or you were going to do something.
I just tell my people to tell me the truth. I'm like, hey, look, I call and tell them. I'll send Amy a text and go, mental health day.
Yeah.
If you need me, I'm here, but I'll be on a jet ski. I'll be out by the pool. I'm going to the lake house. I'm just done for the day. I've had all I can take. And we have an open door policy on that inside this company. If you're having that kind of a day, like if you're going to have a shit day, don't have it here. Don't bring your shit day into my office because my office has to win that day. And if you're the reason that my office doesn't win, now we have a problem.
That's right.
Keep your shit day to yourself. Take that time. Go do something for yourself. An empty cup cannot runneth over. It cannot not fill other cups. Go fill your cup. We give our employees permission to do that. Amy will text me once every 2 months. Harrison, today's not my day. Thumbs up. If you need me, call me. I'm going to leave you alone. I'm going to ask the staff to leave you alone as well.
Because you don't, and that's the whole thing is you don't have to treat people the way that that you want to be treated. And 100% though, if we're not careful, the reason why people lie, I even think of, so like, I'm very, because when Ethan moved in with me, he had he lied a lot.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was because
you're having to work through that real quick.
Oh yeah. And it was because it was a lying issue, don't get me wrong, but it was a self-preservation.
Well, that's what I meant earlier when I said that is like the way that he had been treated over time has taught him, well, if I tell people things, then I just get in trouble for it.
That's right.
So I'm going to quit telling people things.
That's right. Well, and he was always in trouble. Now this kid, ADHD, the whole bit. So he's already getting in trouble at school because he's moving too much. And then, there was other issues, right, going on, but 100%. So here he was, like, his defense mechanism had become, they're going to yell at me, so let me not do that.
Yeah.
Well, or let me lie to get out of it. And so one time I caught him in like a bold-faced lie, and I knew he did it. He knew he did it, but in his mind, if he could talk around it long enough that he wouldn't get in trouble. And so I remember we were in front of Brookshire's, and I got out of the car and I said, "Look," I said, "I know you did it. You know you did it. Right now, you're in that, like, you're scared of the kind of trouble you're going to get into. I said, what you forget about is I'm in this with you.
Yeah.
We are.
PIC, baby.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm your person.
Yeah.
So you're going to tell me the truth. We're going to handle it together. There's consequences because there's natural consequences. You're already in trouble for it.
Yeah. We're already fucked here.
Yeah. I said, so, but I will, like, let me in and I will help get you out of this so that we can move on and put this behind us. And that changed a whole lot of things for us because I think that's the other thing is we forget with our kids, our spouses, the people that we work with, we're a team. It's the world against us maybe, but not
me against
but not me against you.
Yeah.
And so questions will help us get there. But it's questions. It's the power of questions, and it's the understanding to be over there first, that empathy, start with empathy. I've had so everybody practices if you're watching this. Somebody says, I've had a bad day, I've had a hard day or whatever.
Oh,
Don't
man.
go straight to what happened.
Yeah.
That sucks. I hate when I have hard days. And then let them say, and then you'll be able to start asking questions and find out. And you're not looking to, because a lot of times you'll see with men and women, women are always like, men are trying to, fix it. And I just want to talk about it. What's really happening, and because that can go both ways, men or women, but what's happening is you're fixing something that because you heard I had a bad day, you want to fix my bad day, but you're diagnosing.
That person has to be
before
allowed to work through that in their own manner. What is a fix for me is likely not a fix for Olivia.
That's right, 100%.
Because we process differently. We're two different human beings. And so in leading with empathy in a conversation like this is nothing more that if you close your eyes, it's literally someone just opening a door and saying, hey, if you want to walk through the door, it's available to you, if that's comfortable to you right now. Right. And then if they walk through the door and they start to spill, that is quite literally a social cue for you have permission to ask questions.
Yeah.
So now we've invited them in. They stepped in. They have said, hey, you're allowed to have conversations with me now.
Well, and I love that because you're 100%, and that may be a great place to end it here. It's having the empathy, having the questions but it starts with the empathy so that you can be over there with them. You're seeking to understand them. That opens up so many things. And I love how you said it's opening the door. It's giving permission. Because again, if you don't have my implied or explicit permission to have that conversation, it just feels like that person lecturing and nobody wins.
And then you're talking to a know-it-all, which I even find myself doing that.
Oh,
like,
we all do. I mean,
I
have to be really.
I had this problem investing, and I immediately go, well, you should be doing this, 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 and this, and let me tell you what my ROI is on this, and you should pull out of that. And they didn't give me not an ounce of permission to be in that conversation.
That's right.
But Mr. Know-it-all, like, oh, I'm great at investing, right?
1,000%. I'm with you. Like, I will have to. I go to people all the time because I don't want anybody listening to this thinking that we have it all figured out.
Oh,
I don't.
We're super fucking human in here.
I cannot tell you how many times I have gone to people after the fact and be like, you said this and I got all excited and I went that way. I apologize. I did not. That's not where it's okay to go back and clean things up. We should.
Yeah.
And it's a learning thing for you, but people appreciate it. So a lot of times it is going back and cleaning it up and going, look, you said this and I went all about investments because I'm really passionate about it. But tell me a little bit about what you're thinking.
Yeah.
And then let them talk.
Yeah,
because you're going to meet them where
to get in that conversation.
Yeah, you're going to meet them where they are, and where they are is not bad, wrong. I mean, you might find out they got a credit score of 2, and you're like, but you got to start somewhere, right? So their first step to investing might just be, let's get you in a Dave Ramsey course, right? Whatever it is.
Which I'm actually teaching right now.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, we're on baby step 5 this Wednesday.
Yes.
So
nice.
yeah, we're doing 2 baby steps a week, and then after we finish Financial Peace University or Total Moneymaker, we're just doing the baby steps. Is all we're teaching. And then after that, we're going to go into what we call the Purple Bible, Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about once we have a great foundation for our finances and our personal life, which is hopefully debt free ish, and emergency fund and everything, and investing in the basics. We can talk about how to make our money work for us. And so yeah, no, I'm excited about that. I do love it. I love talking about finances and investing. It's one of my favorite topics. I love coaching people in that. I'm very passionate about it. So it's been an easy topic. Like I have to study for 10 minutes to speak for 2 hours, where I normally have to study for 2 days to speak for 2 hours. So it's been great. But anyway, so we went off topic there. So to wrap this up, guys, questions will change your life if you will allow them. We created today for you a framework that Olivia and I both use. And one is, number one would be lead with empathy. Number two would be ask for permission to ask those powerful questions. Would you mind if we talked a little bit about that?
Well, so, so just because asking permission it can be just asking that, but once they ask you for your opinion. So like,
that is permission.
That's permission. Yeah. So like, oh wow, that sucks to have a terrible day at school. I hate those.
And then they keep going. Boom.
And now that's them giving you permission. Now the minute, and this is the cool part, is the minute you feel like maybe they shut down, go back to empathy. You've asked too many questions. Go back to empathy. Hear what they're saying, and then ask questions. And that's, again, the reason I love 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. They give you that framework. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, but ask questions to self-discovery. That is what
ask yourself great questions.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a lot of the financial decisions I've made lately were based on questions I asked myself and wrote down about my finances and things that I was doing. And I was like, Harrison, you're not even following your own play here. And it's because I was asking myself questions that I was able to come to that conclusion. Yeah. And so follow the framework, lead with empathy, get permission or ask for it. Once you have it, ask questions. And it is a self-discovery thing. Coaching, like how do you level up in coaching? It's having a bunch of conversations, answering a bunch of questions until you self-discover, that light bulb goes off and you go, I now understand what we've been talking about for the last 3 weeks.
Yes.
I know what I need to do now. Right. And then, make sure that you keep a relationship with your people so that you do have that permission. That's how you move your relationships forward, your parenting forward, your marriage forward. It's how you move your partnerships in business forward.
Yep.
So that's what we encourage of you this week. Did you have anything to close on?
So I love that you say that. So for anybody that listens to this, what I would encourage you is go find 3, 4, 5 questions, because odds are, don't care how good you think you are at asking questions, you ask the same ones over and over.
Yep.
Google's awesome. Google, read a book, find
ChatGPT,
find 5 questions that you can ask that gets deeper. So what it mean by that is, somebody tells you their day sucks. Oh wow, what happened? How do you feel about that? Is this something that happens often? Like, how can you get deeper? Yeah. Like, is this a one-off, or is this something that happens a lot? Like, how can you get those deeper questions? So we don't, at MAPS, I loved it. They said stop water skiing and scuba dive with your questions. So go find 5 questions, and this week just practice. And it's also okay to tell people, I'm practicing. I want to be a better communicator and a better listener.
Yeah.
So I'm going to practice asking some questions this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming along this journey with us. Let's Go is about us bringing you with us along our growth in life, because we ain't got it figured out.
Oh no, gosh.
And we're just here to I guess let you guys in on our story and our path.
Yeah.
And hopefully we all go together. Y'all have a great day. We'll see you on the next episode. See ya.